Actually, your environment, what you're watching, what you're listening, who you're talking to, is the ultimate decider of your life. If you hang out with millionaires for the next 2 years, you're going to go down that track. It's just the way life is. You are so influenced by what is around you. So pay attention to your environment.
Hosting change makers like President Barack Obama, billionaire founders Sir Richard Branson.
2 things that have been consistent in my life that have been my superpowers. Ready? Lesson number 1. You have to do the thing that you think you should not do. Lesson number 2. First impressions matter more than anything else that you will say. So how you dress, how you walk, how you enter the stage, what music you enter with, all of that is super, super important. I think you only appreciate life when you're about to lose it. When you're at rock bottom, you can't get lower. So therefore, anything is possible. I don't think I would have redirected my life if I had things to lose. If you see life as just, I was born and I will die and I've got 70 years, it is such a useless perspective.
Welcome to the best podcast on this fucking earth. I'm Thaddeus Mehl. I'm together with Pietro, Konstantin, and this is Huge Conversations.
When you were 16,
Yeah.
you stood in front of a lion.
I did.
Describe your emotions in this moment.
Fear, confusion, out of the world, and paralysis.
That's good. What was the impact of it in your life?
Game changer. I think you only appreciate life when you're about to lose it. And to have the gift of almost dying at 16 puts life into perspective. Because when you're 16, you're invincible. When you're 16, you're at the peak of your physical performance. When you're 16, you think you can do anything until you face something so scary, so big, and that can totally destroy you. And then you realize there is more to life. First perspective, we are small and we will die. And that's good to remember. And second, anything, even a lion, you can fight and win. And so realizing both at 16, powerful.
So how does the story end?
I'm alive, I'm here.
Yeah, that's true. But you run away, or what is the thing? And what is the takeaway maybe for other people? And when you bring it to the life of normal people or like people they want to grow themselves.
Yeah. So every animal, there's a different technique to deal with that scenario.
Yeah.
There are trees, but you cannot climb faster than a lion. There is land, but you cannot run faster than a lion. There was water there, but you cannot swim faster than a lion. Lions are amazing swimmers. And even though there were actually a bunch of us there, we couldn't fight the lion. No chance. The only thing is actually counterintuitive. You have to do the thing that you think you should not do. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2, one step at a time. Lesson number 3, always forward. So my body is saying run. What you do, you walk. My body is saying get away. What you do is you go towards it. And one step at a time. And it is in many ways the start of something that I've seen throughout my life, a motto that I live for called start now, start simple. Because there's no time to go get an education on how to fight a lion. You got to fight it right then. There's no time to go to the gym and work out. You got to do what you can at that moment. There's no time to go get a weapon. No, just start now, start simple. The best time to start something, right now. What do you use? Whatever's in your hand, as simple as that. So that was it. And one step at a time, one step at a time. Watch, hold, stop breathing, another step. And that's how you get away.
What was the reaction of the lion?
Confusion. And eventually discomfort, and then it left.
Do you think this is also like for other people when they see you walk in another direction, like the same one that people think about you in the real life that the lion thought in this moment?
It's an interesting question. So I'll answer yours first and yours next. The reason the lion retreated is because we were doing the thing that nothing else does. Lions chase, and we were moving towards a lion. Lions hunt, we were moving towards a lion. Lions are usually terrifying. And while that was terrifying, we were moving towards the terrifying. So it did not know how to behave in that situation, and so it left. It was uncomfortable, and it left the situation. It wasn't afraid of us. It wasn't scared. It was just uncomfortable, and so it left. To answer your question, I think the lion story is just a very dramatic piece of some story I felt my whole life, which is the story of a misfit. Being the son of a diplomat, I grew up in multiple countries around the world. We moved every 2 to 3 years. I was always Indian in my skin, but I was living in Zimbabwe and in Algeria and in France and in UAE and in India and in Morocco, and I was living all over the place, and I never fit. Either my accent was wrong, or my hairstyle was different, or my pencil box. You know, kids are brutal. If you even wear different shoes, they pick up on it and be like, hey, that's weird. And so it was always that I was on the outside. And like everyone else, I really wanted to belong. I really wanted to fit in. But at some point, if enough people say you don't belong, you just learn to own it. And you just own being a misfit, being someone on the outside. And so I think I've, for a long time, been walking differently. And the lion story is just a dramatic moment where it's the same thing. Everyone else would have run, except we did the thing that no one else did, which is move towards the thing that scares us. But my whole life, you know, when everyone else thought that basketball was cool because it was cool, I wasn't tall enough for basketball. So I just owned playing tennis and playing badminton. The thing is, I'm obsessive about what I do. And so I just got really, really good at it, to the point that our tennis team and our badminton team were outperforming our basketball team. So then that became cool only because we were traveling, we were touring, the thing that the basketball team could not do. It was the same with music or theater. You know, I was a kid that played piano and classical piano. It's like the uncoolest thing ever. But classical piano teaches you to learn to play anything. And so when everyone else was struggling with 3 chords on a guitar sounding lame, I had this huge musical knowledge that someone could play a track, like the track you played, and I can play it instantly. Give me 4 seconds and I can play it. And that started becoming really exciting. But I took that as a challenge even more. It wasn't enough for me to know piano. I then wanted other people to learn. So I started teaching. But that wasn't enough. After they started learning, I wanted us to perform together. So I organized my own concert. But I did all this when I was 15, 16 years old. I did the thing that other people don't do. Most people think music isn't cool. But here I was organizing concerts and getting people to buy tickets to come and watch us perform. So then that started becoming cool. So I think my whole life, I've just been, out of necessity, I was forced to be different. I wasn't allowed to be like everyone else. It's the greatest gift ever. That's why I continue being different.
So, but when you felt like uncomfortable in these early years, what pushed you really forward? It's because there are people that, I don't know, they believe this thing that they are not right. And there are people who really push forward to do cool things. And I feel like you're a person who pushed forward a lot of times. So what is the intrinsic motivation or the thing that the other people can take from your learnings?
That is a really good question. So there's a couple things. First of all, I have to give credit where it is due. I know a lot of interviews, podcasts are about how the person accomplished everything. That's not the case here. 2 things that have been consistent in my life that have been my superpowers. Ready? Number 1, God. I'm very religious. And having a perspective that I am designed, I am created, I am not here by accident, I'm not here by genetic mistakes, you know, gives you a different authority. Because if I believe that the most powerful being in the entire universe knows my name, made me, and made me with a purpose, I walk with a lot more power than the average person. If someone else thinks that, oh, just some cells connected and it made me, then it's just, okay, whatever life gives you. It's not a big deal. So I would say that's the first thing. And I read my Bible every morning, and that gives me a lot of promises, a lot of source of inspiration. That's the first part. The second thing are my parents. I'm very fortunate that I had very, very supportive parents. I don't know why. Because you don't do anything to deserve your parents, right? You don't choose your parents. But my parents are unbelievable. They are incredibly mature. They're incredibly caring. And the word I would use that most parents don't do is they're sacrificial. Their entire being was for my sister and I to have the best lives ever.
What are the lessons that they teach you, where you really think like this was important?
So many. And they continue teaching me every day, even last night. You know, I keep learning from them.
What was it last night?
They're such good mentors, you know. So at that point, what it was they saw my value, and that would become more important than my friends seeing my value. So when I came home and my parents said, tell me about your day, how are your studies, go for classes, boom, boom, boom. They were showing me that who I was at home, loved, I belonged, they're investing in me, mattered way more than my friends and way more than the haters. Because they spoke for maybe 5 minutes at lunchtime. And here are my parents pouring into me. That's the first. Second, they spoke life into me. When you learn to play the piano, you kind of suck for the first 4 years. When my sister was playing the violin, it sounds terrible for the first 2 years. They not only tolerated, they encouraged it. They didn't go, ooh, can you turn down the volume? Oh, can you not? No, they said, practice, keep practicing, keep practicing. They saw the potential, and it's something I talk a lot about, is growth happens in darkness. It doesn't happen in front of cameras. A seed grows when it's in the ground. It must be dark. It cannot be in the light. If you put a seed outside, it'll die. And it must have the right environment. So my parents gave me that environment at home. It wasn't about what I was doing at school. It's what I was doing at home. That's where the growth happened. And they taught me that at a young age. So I didn't care if someone laughed at me if I missed the basket in school. Because at home, I would keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. That's where the growth happened. So popularity in school didn't matter at all to me. So they taught me those lessons very, very early. Not by preaching to me in a podcast, just living it every day. I think the best lessons have to be lived. They're not something you say inspirationally over dinner. And last night, what it was, as always, when you live in the public eye, like I do, when you have multiple projects, there's trouble. There are problems. My dad is now 72 years old. And one beautiful thing about having friendships of different generations, something that we don't do in the Western world, unfortunately, is people who are older. You met my neighbor who's 91 downstairs.
Yeah.
No one else knows her. I know her because I see the value in having multi-generational friendships. Dad's been through a lot. So for me to hear his perspective on how to deal with it, because to me, my problems are like the biggest problems ever right now. And he's like, no, it's a season. It's just a season, because in life, you will have some hard moments, some great moments, some hard moments. So you just have to have the grace, the mercy, the patience, the self-love to deal with this. It will pass. Then you go up again, but you prepare, because then you go down again. And to have that perspective, not one of fear, oh no, shock, just go like, it's a season. We take it seriously, we fight, but it will go. It'll be another chapter in your book, something in the past tense. So having that perspective is so, so helpful.
How did you face the chapter where you had 2 years where you've been unemployed?
Mm-hmm.
It was like you achieved a lot of things. You was in your university one of the best and like trying to push hard. And then it was like, oh, but no one want to employ me.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that shaped everything of you, because what we saw, it was like the starting point of also like start now, start simple.
And a huge career.
Yeah. You know, people are afraid of negative emotions. Betrayal, disappointment, fear, loss. But they're also incredible motivators if you just dare to get over it. I think what I felt most in that season was betrayal, because I'd worked so hard in high school. I got into the best university in the world, Yale University, studied very hard. I got into an MBA program, did really well. I did excellent in sports, I did excellent in music. I gave, I served, I launched projects. I gave, expecting that one day when I became an adult, it would come back. And that was the moment, and it didn't come back. And that's what I mean by betrayal. It's not that I was lazy, it's not that I didn't care. It was the opposite. I gave everything, 100%. And the world gave me recession, gave me unemployment. More than that, it gave me invisibility. It just didn't see me. I wasn't there. I didn't matter. I had no value. That really sucks. And so as I said, negative emotions, lack of self-worth, fear of the future, disappointing my parents who I respect and care about so much, feeling betrayed by the world, but also being curious about God. Like, God, you told me all these things. You promised all this stuff. What happened? That is tough. That is really tough. But it also teaches you some cool things. Because when you're at rock bottom, you can't get lower. So therefore, anything is possible. I don't think I would have redirected my life if I had things to lose. Right? So now to start a business is tough because I have my houses, I have my family, I have my reputation, so I could lose that. But when you have no reputation, when you have no money, when no one cares, when no one sees you, you can do anything. And that is powerful. Also, you learn certain words. The word I learned was yes. Because when everyone else is saying no, and I realized that no kills, well, what gives life? Yes. That combination was deadly for me because then when the first opportunity came, which was to volunteer at a school to speak to some 12-year-old girls, I said yes. The truth was, it was below me, but I was already at the bottom. So you can't get lower than that. The truth was, I needed money, and volunteering does not make you money. But I had nothing to lose. Now, an hour of my time costs a lot. So volunteering is expensive. But then, nothing. So that's how it started. You know the end of the story, because essentially saying yes to 4 or 5 things, literally, I'm not exaggerating, from a volunteer effort to a bunch of 12-year-old girls led me to the Prime Minister's office as an advisor to the government. And that was also a journey of self-discovery, self-awareness, self-worth, self-value, not because of other people seeing things, but because I fought for it every step of the way and learning. But I also realized I'm capable of more. I didn't know I was a speaker, but someone else gave me the chance to speak. I didn't know I could write, but someone else gave me the chance to write. I didn't know I could advise the government. I mean, that's ridiculous, but someone gave me the chance. And so I also discovered I am more than what I thought I was, because with the economics degree from Yale and an MBA, I thought I was a consultant. And that's all I thought I'd be doing. So I actually think hitting rock bottom is a blessing. Almost dying is a blessing. Having rejection is a blessing. Being bullied is a blessing. Not being popular is a blessing, because that's where growth happens. That's where discovery happens. That's where you choose to be yourself and not to fit in.
How can I train my personal growth?
How can you train it?
Yeah.
Oh, so much. There's so much that you can do. I wish this was the #1 class taught in school, because I think it is the most important thing. School was built so people could work in factories. It was not built for self-growth and self-discovery. And I think it is the most important thing. Back in the day, people had a midlife crisis at 40 because they were doing something and they realized, this is not me. Now, people have a crisis at 14 or 15 because for the first time, you don't have to go fight in a war. You don't have to deal with all of this stuff. You can think, who am I? What do I do?
Yeah, you don't have the structured lane, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I could teach 5 years of this content. I don't know what to give you in a podcast, but the things that come off the top of my head, first, your environment is your birth ground. It doesn't matter where you're born physically. It doesn't even matter what family you're born into. It doesn't even matter economically what you're born into. The people you choose around you matters more than all of that. You can come from a broken home. You can come from a struggling home. But if you have 4 powerful friends, that's home. Being with them is home, and that's going to be a birth ground. You can have the best family in the world, but if you have 2 friends who are lazy, who just don't go out on the weekends, just sit at home playing video games, for sure you're going to join them and play video games. So actually your environment, what you're watching, what you're listening, who you're talking to, is the ultimate decider of your life. If you hang out with millionaires for the next 2 years, you're going to go down that track. If you hang out with athletes for the next 2 years, you're going to go down that track. If you hang out with artists, you're going to go down that track. It's just the way life is. You are so influenced by what is around you. So pay attention to your environment. That's the first thing I'd say. Second, be so curious. What you guys are doing, asking questions, meeting people, is the best way to learn, right? The worst thing you can do is think you know everything. So even the stuff now, I'm almost 40, but the things that I think I know, I challenge all the time. I think I know how to run a business, I challenge that constantly. I think I know how to learn, I challenge that. Even things like technology, I'm like, yeah, I know technology, but AI is here, and I'm like, okay, let me build something. Why? I don't need to build a startup. It's the best way to learn. It's the best way to get back in. So I think be curious. That's the second thing I'd say. And the third thing I would say about growth is have perspective, because we're impatient. We want it now. It doesn't happen that way. We expect too much from ourselves sometimes. So you have to show yourself grace and kindness, because you're not always going to get it right. And you can't always live up to all your dreams. That's okay. That's part of learning. And so perspective is super, super important. And that's where having older people that can give you that advice, like for me to have my parents or some of my advisors are 60, 70 years old, it's so amazing to have that perspective. And I would add, again, on the spiritual level, knowing that this life is short. If you're lucky, you'll live 90 years. So what? It's nothing. The world has been here for billions of years. 90 means nothing. So have some perspective spiritually that your life has worth. There is a legacy and an impact, but you won't get there just by hustle. You'll get there only by perspective. You have to know why you're here. When you know that, nothing can stop you.
So what is the thing that you can give to these struggling young people that it matters that you focus on maybe pulling the right people around you? Because maybe they don't know how it looks when you go this path.
Yeah.
Because they cannot see, because their parents are maybe poor or not having the like other interesting people around them. So it's like they're stuck in their own circle.
Yeah.
So maybe it's interesting to see and hear why they should go and find these people and be curious.
So here's one thing I've learned. I can teach and coach anything. For the last 10 years, I have been coached by people, and I constantly mentor people. I can mentor you to be anyone and achieve anything. Literally. You set any goal, I can get you there. The only thing I cannot coach you is your spirit. I cannot give you motivation. You're either motivated or not. I cannot give you fire in your eyes. You either wake up with that fire or you don't wake up with the fire. That's the one thing I cannot teach you. I also cannot teach you why you must change. Either you have a desire to change or you don't. So the first thing I would say is when it comes to motivating or inspiring young people, is actually it has to come from inside them. It cannot come from some inspirational talk I give them. It cannot be from a movie that they watch. They have to go, enough is enough. Tomorrow is a new day. And then the question is how. And as soon as they go how, I can help them out. How is easy. But that choice of like, because I've talked to some kids who come, or college students who come to events, and they're like, wow, that story is so cool. And then they say, I can't do it. And I go, yeah, you're right. And they said, what? Aren't you supposed to inspire me? I said, actually, no, because what you decide is your life. If you say you can, I will say, yes, you can. If you say you can't, you're right, because you have chosen that you can't do it. That's the one thing I cannot help you with. It's as simple as that. That's the one thing I cannot coach you on. But once you make that call, actually everything else is super easy. So the thing that you're asking is, they have to decide, I want to change things. And then that's super easy. It could be friends. It could be morning routines, something I'm very religious about. It could be about perspective and mindset. It could be about influences, what you're reading, what you're listening to. It could be about decisions you make, risks that you take. It can be a whole bunch of things. But it all starts with first you going and thinking to yourself, yeah, I got to change this now. Enough is enough. I'm drawing the line.
I'm also very deep into this morning routine thing. So
What's your morning routine?
So it's like for me really to get fast to light and have music that is really pushing me and
What kind of music?
inspiring. I hear like Hans Zimmer. Yeah, it's like classical.
Cinematic.
Good,
Yeah,
good
and-
German.
Yeah, good German.
musician.
and for me, it's like to have to visualize a little bit. So these kind of thing to give yourself this thing that you want to reach, or maybe why you're going out, and also like that you can decide what is your mood. I really feel like it's so different how you get up, because when I sleep and then the first thing I look in the day is like
The phone.
TikToks or
Yeah,
phones, and
yeah.
then there's a message from, I don't know,
Yeah, something negative.
yeah, something negative.
It's influenced
like,
your whole
yeah,
day.
and then you think like, shit, I've forgotten this, and yeah, your whole day is like in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I want to ask you, what is your thing that you feel is like very helpful for you?
I developed this by all the interviews that I do on stage, just like you do these interviews on podcasts. Mine is on stage as an event moderator and MC. And I've realized that successful people are very, very picky about their morning routines. And so mine is developed, but now it's really simple. It's called the 5G morning routine. 5 things I do every morning that fill me up, that inspire me, that direct me, that focus me. 1, they all start with G, God. I start my morning every day with a Bible that's sitting over there. I read a verse, I think about it, I think how it applies for the day, and I pray about it. 2nd, gym. I really believe in being active in the morning, getting outside, doing some sports, moving. 3rd, growth. I love listening to podcasts, watching TEDx talks. Usually while I'm having breakfast, I'll watch something like a short 12-minute clip that will just awaken my mind to it. God, gym, growth. Goals. I'm a huge, huge believer in time management. And I've now added energy management to time management, 2 different topics. But I live by my calendar. I don't remember anything outside of a calendar. So if you tell me, hey, Dan, can you send me an email about this? If I don't put it in my calendar, it is gone. I only do the things that are in my calendar.
I feel so much.
Yes.
It's the same for me.
I live by my calendar. And so goals is essentially me thinking, what am I going to do? But more importantly, when am I going to do it? It's not enough to have a to-do list. I have to give time to it. So that's the 4th. And finally is gratitude. And when we were walking outside, we were talking about this. I believe that feelings are a decision. And so every morning I make time to think and choose what is my mood. There is no email that comes to me that can overtake that. Everything that happens, if you smile at me, that creates a reaction. If a bird poops on me, that creates a reaction for sure. But in the morning, if I choose to be grateful, if I choose to see the world going, wow, I'm blessed to have so many meetings, then I don't feel tired with meetings because I've chosen that I am grateful, I'm thankful to have meetings. And even if there's hard things to do, if I choose to say, I'm ready, I'm prepared, I'm as good as I can be for this hard thing, it gives me a different feeling than, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. So, God, gym, goals, growth, gratitude, 5G morning routine.
When I choose to change my environment, how?
How do you change your environment?
Yes, how?
You just do it. What is your environment?
Let's say I'm in school
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, but tell me the specific things that are in your environment. So you got some friends?
Yeah, of course there are friends.
Yeah. What else?
Then there's family,
Good.
of course.
What else?
And maybe you have your first business partners.
Good. What else?
Probably that would be it.
There's other things too that you should consider. Your
All right.
physical environment makes a big difference,
Okay.
right? When you walked in, I had some future bass sound in here.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yes. And I like that kind of music. There's a drive, there's a movement to
Yeah.
it. Now, if I had classical music, it would have created a very different environment. If I had hard rock or metal, it would have had a very different feeling. So the music, the lights in the space, all of those also have an influence. So if you have a very messy space, it affects your mind. If you have a clean space, it affects your mind. So there's a physical environment that you're not thinking about that also has an effect. I would also say the influences that are so huge these days of what's on your screen, what's in your ears. So the people you follow on Instagram, on TikTok, the people that maybe you're getting WhatsApp messages from, all of those are your environment. So to answer your question, there are some things that you can change instantly. Like you can delete Instagram instantly. Doesn't take more than 5 seconds. Or TikTok. You can also choose to redirect. You can go through it and remove all the people that you know are negative influences, distracting, boring, pointless, all of that, and then immediately follow, because not social media is not wrong. It's the addiction to social media that's wrong. That's the problem, right? Money is not a problem. It's the addiction to money that's a problem. Fame is not a problem. It's the addiction to fame that's a problem. So there are good influences on social media. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of growing. There's a lot of community. There are people like you all over the world. Social media is the way to connect with them. So you just choose that. There are some things that are harder to remove, like family, right? Especially if you're young, you have to probably stay at home. That's not something you can just choose to opt out of, or it comes with significant risks. Also, I will add that perspective changes. So even if you go through a hard time at home, you see it differently when you get older, the same situation, and you also realize it builds character. I am not a fan of saying that if things are bad, you quit, because I have already told you through my story that when things were bad was the best learning ground. So sometimes having a tough family background gives you some grit, gives you perseverance, gives you a thick skin, gives you resilience. This is hard, lessons to learn, but valuable. And even though you may never accept what happened at home, when you get older, you'll appreciate that it made you the person that you are. So I would say some things you cannot quit, like who your parents are. Even if you choose not to talk to them, they're still your parents. There are some things you cannot quit, like maybe the skin that you're in, right? You cannot change that. Or the way you look. I mean, there's some things you can change, but some things you can't. I have some friends who have amputations of body parts. I have some friends who have some severe disfiguration. The amazing part is they're some of the more self-conscious in a positive way people, and some of the people that care less. I know good-looking models that are more insecure than people that don't have a leg, because that teaches you stuff the hard way, but it's super valuable. So with changing the environment, there are some things that are very easy. Friends, what you're watching online, your physical environment. If your room's a mess, you can clean that up. It doesn't take more than 2 hours to do that. You can clean it up. You can live in a better space. But some things maybe you can't. Like the school you go to might not be that easy to switch schools, or the parents or the home that you're in, you know?
So what are, I don't know, the 3 things that have the biggest impact to change in your environment?
Oh, it depends person to person. That'd be a very tough one to just give a blanket answer to. Or do you have a more specific question?
So maybe for mood, to have like the right mood to start in the day.
Oh, okay.
Because this is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I think for most people in the world, me included, okay, and I'm not an exception to this, don't start with your phone. So get an alarm clock. I have an alarm clock in my room, but I still use the alarm on my phone. And the problem is, because I have the phone physically in my hand to switch it off, the option to see all the notifications, all the stuff is instant. I would say the one game changer that everyone can do, but will be the hardest thing to do, is put the phone in another room, start with an alarm clock, and start with just your mind. Wake up in the morning and just think by yourself. You know, look out the window and decide what the day is. Don't look at your screen and decide what the day is. You know, have the question of like, how do I feel this morning? Don't watch other people and be influenced on how you should feel, but you think about those things. Brush your teeth in silence. Use the bathroom in silence. Silence is wonderful. Being in your own thoughts is wonderful. It's also scary. You learn a lot of things about yourself. But I would say that would be the biggest game changer. That's like apex predator mode. You know, I have never seen someone at the top watch other people to influence them. So yeah, the one thing that even I would find very difficult to do is don't start with your phone for the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the day.
How can I brand myself to get out to let other people know what I'm doing?
Great question.
Should I go out
100%.
and let other people know what I'm doing?
Yeah. Well,
Why?
The second part is obvious.
Not for everyone.
No, for everyone. There is no exception.
No, it isn't obvious for everyone.
Oh, it's not obvious for everyone. But there's a great book by Yuval Noah Harari called Sapiens.
Okay.
And he says in the book that the reason that Homo sapiens, us, humans, have evolved over all the other animals is coming down to one thing: the ability to tell stories. So when elephants give birth to elephants, even though they're the biggest land animal, they cannot communicate the things they have learned so that the baby elephant can evolve to become better. When a lion, which is the most ferocious animal in the forest, gives birth to a baby, it cannot tell it, these are good people, these are bad people, here's the land, here. It cannot do that. They have to discover again. We can tell. You will be smarter than me and achieve more because you have learned more than I did when I was your age. So the ability to tell stories is what makes us evolve. So, to your question about personal branding is story. Finish. That's everything. So if I tell you and I dress as part of my brand different, that is the story you associate with Dan. There are many stories. I can also choose to be Dan the immigrant. That's also true. I'm Indian living in Germany. And so I could tell you that story. And for all the immigrants who watch, the amazing Turks that are in the country, Indians, Pakistan, they'll resonate to my story because they go, oh, Dan is the immigrant. But nowhere did I use this word. And so this is the story that we choose. So I choose, as part of my personal brand, certain things. I choose red because it's fire. And it stands for a bit aggressive, a bit different, in your face. So I choose the color. I choose the kind of clothes. I could wear a hoodie or a t-shirt like you guys, but I choose to dress differently. So difference is a part of my personal brand, which is also why I get hired, because there are many speakers. There are many MCs, but there are none that wear an Indian outfit, that engage an audience the way that I do, that speak the way that I do. They hire me to be different. Because if I dress like everyone else, act like everyone else, there's a lot of competition there. So personal branding is simply story. Know your story, tell your story. And then to your question about who or how or when, I'd say everybody, because the world gets better if we all tell our stories, which is essentially personal branding. But it starts with knowing your story.
But
That's the hardest.
What is the best way to start to telling the story? So it's like social media, Instagram, or it's like YouTube, or what do you think is the best way to start for a person who don't know everything in this area?
My philosophy always is start now, start simple. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I would say start everywhere and see what sticks.
But it isn't simple to start everywhere.
I think it is. I mean, okay, for example, I'm not on BeReal, right?
Yeah.
How hard is it to create a BeReal account? It'll take me less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll get prompted almost instantly to take a picture. It actually is quite simple. It might take time, but it's simple. It's not going to take me a doctorate or a PhD to start a BeReal account. Also, if I wanted to change the way I dress as part of my personal branding, it's not that complicated to go on Amazon and buy something or to go to the stores and buy something. So it might require some resources, money, it might require time. I'm not, by simple, I don't mean immediate or fast, but I think we overthink it. So you'll think, oh, first I need to get a fashion designer to know my values, to know my character, and then to build me a portfolio of 20 outfits, and I have to have enough money to buy. No, just go buy one shirt. One. Try it out. See what works. Because my thing about red started with a pair of red shoes. I was always wearing black dress shoes on stage, and I had some red sports shoes that I used for the tennis court. But when I went to practice, the CEO of the company was wearing white sneakers. And I thought, oh, I'm overdressed because I'm wearing these dress shoes that are black, that are polished. And I was thinking, now it's going to look bad because I'm the moderator. I'm not the speaker. How can I be more dressed than the CEO? And the only thing I had was my sports shoes, my red shoes. So I put that on. But the number of people that came up to me going like, love those shoes. Then it sparked something. Okay, in a world where men on stage wear blue and gray, red pops. And that's how it started. Something so small, so little started that. One day, I ran out of all my shirts. They were all in my laundry. And so I put on an Indian outfit because that's all I had left. But the number of people that came up to me going, I like that. That's different. That's unique. Now I have not worn a shirt with a collar and a suit for years. So actually it's quite simple, but you see what sticks. There were many other things I tried. I tried playing piano at events. People always love it, but it doesn't stick. Like no one's coming to the event saying, oh, I really, really hope that Dan plays the piano at the event. So you just try different things, you know. I also tried using tech, and I try to be impressive about it. But people, I realize those are nice accessories to have some nice graphics and videos. But the thing that people like most, I find, at least with my moderating, is people like that I'm fully present. Like when I make eye contact with you, I am fully here, 100% here. Trust me, I have a lot of other things I can think about, but I'm choosing to be fully here. And that's the thing that people seem to like the most, is the energy, the presence, the connection. And in many ways, technology is a distraction. So when I say, here are 3 principles of how to build your personal brand, they find it distracting. But what they like more is, tell me about your story. What's your brand? And they seem to like that way more. So you just throw things, keep it simple, just try something and see what sticks. And if it sticks, do more of it.
Do you think it's necessary to be like different or special for a good branding?
The answer is yes, but here's the other problem. You are different and you are special. So you would be compromising if you try to compete with someone else.
So my question would be, how can I create a great story?
What is your story?
So let's take my story, actually. I'm a musician, I'm a DJ, also a podcast host, and I'm an event manager.
When was the first time you listened to a song that made you cry?
Should be when I was 6 years.
Good. That's part of the story. When was the first time that you sat at an instrument? Can you play an instrument?
Yes, it was with 10. I played bongos.
Bongos.
Yeah.
That's a great story because not many people start on the bongos.
Yeah.
That's great.
Actually, my dad said that I should learn it. Why ever he is also playing a bunch of instruments, guitar and everything. Why ever he said with 10 years, here, get to this one man. He can teach you how to play bongos, and you will learn this in the next 2 years. And I've learned it.
Good. When was the first time you went to a concert?
With maybe 15, 16.
Do you remember who it was?
Yeah, it was a German artist. Was not that good, actually.
Yeah. It was a German artist, but it also led you to a passion with German music, which has also led you to a remix that now has, 50 million views and who knows how many kind of streams online on Spotify. So that is only the start of your story. We can also talk about what was the last time you played an instrument, the last concert you went to and all of that. But this is what makes you unique, because I'm telling you, I did not start on the bongos. So already you're unique there. But I play instruments, you play instruments. So if you just say I'm an artist, well, I'm also an artist, not unique. Bongos, unique. Classical piano for me, somewhat unique, right? Or your first concert, live concert, was a German artist. My first live concert was an a cappella group. It was singers. And so even there we're different as artists. So I would say you should really, really know what is it about your life that is different from everything else, and to stay away from these words like podcast host. Everyone is a podcast host these days. Yeah. So it's not that special. Entrepreneur. Everybody is an entrepreneur. It's not that special. So you got to figure out what is it that makes you unique. And it's not pretending. Like, you are unique. So what was your story? And then learn to tell that story. You don't have to tell the story of, oh, I was bullied and overcame it, because everyone has a story. But you can tell the story about your specific situation in school. And that's really what personal branding is about.
Okay, let's say I'm in the perspective of a person who doesn't have the story.
Everyone has a story. Tell me someone who's not done anything in their life.
What are the crucial questions that I should ask myself to see my own story better?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Everyone have the story, but there are many people they don't see
Yeah.
that they have really a cool story.
Yes, you're right. These are tough questions, but maybe a starting point. Questions like, what makes me happy? What makes me sad? What gives me energy? What drains me? What was a milestone that I'm very proud of? What is something that I'm very disappointed in? Who inspires me? Who does not? What do I care about in the world? What do I not care about? These are kind of the starting point of understanding who you are, but then understanding who you are in multiple spaces, because it'll also be like in community. Who are my favorite people to hang around with? Who are the least favorite people to hang out around with? If I could describe a perfect friend, who would they be? What kind of friend am I to people around me? So these are all the thoughts that are very helpful to have, and this is called introspection. This is you asking yourself questions, and you can ask ChatGPT for a list of these questions, and you process it. The second level is to ask the people that know you the same questions. So even in the little time that we have today, I would ask you something like, what is something that you saw online that is consistent with who you see in real life? But I also ask you, what version of me do you see in real life that is different than what you saw online? This is really helpful for me to see where it is. Or since we're going to spend the day together, I will say, what is something that you only know now because you spent a whole day that you could not know from 1 hour on a podcast? These are the kind of things that are really helpful as far as understanding my unique story. That's the second level. And the third level is to go to people that do not know you, like social media, and pay attention to what catches them. So when I walk down the street, what do they notice? Like, my neighbors probably know the Mustang. That's probably what they associate with me, right? So they may wrongly think I'm American. They'd be right that my accent's American, but I'm not American. They would certainly see the red. So even a stranger would know that red is a core color of who I am. Yeah. But they would probably also know that I'm different, because in a city of Porsches and BMWs, I'm the only American Mustang that is here. So this also goes, okay, this guy is different, right? So even a stranger would get that part. So these will be the three levels: introspection, you within yourself; 2, friends and family about you; and 3rd, total strangers. So even when you're trying to understand what kind of person you are when you meet someone, it's a fun exercise. You go up 2-3 minutes, introduce it, blah, 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 walk away. And then go back to them later and say, what was your first impression of me? Right? And ask them. It'd be really interesting for you to know, what does a stranger think about you? Yeah. But also I'll tell you, this is a everyday, constant, full life effort. It's not something you do one time and go, this is my personal brand.
I like it.
Do you have stories from other people that changed your perspective?
On like story and branding and all this stuff?
Yeah, or just in the way that you now see the world. Maybe there are some other people that gave you some new perspectives.
Constantly. I'm one of these people that chooses to be inspired all the time. My 91-year-old neighbor, inspiring. I love seeing the world through her eyes. My boss's son, he's 13 years old, inspiring. I love how he sees the world. I like to be inspired constantly, and I'm curious enough to learn from anybody. But there have been some life-changing conversations, for sure. One was with Beyonce's manager, also Jay-Z's business partner, and this was when I learned one massive game changer, which we touched on. But we were about to go up on stage for an interview. I had a bunch of questions I was going to ask him on stage, but he knew I was a Beyonce fan, and we had a Beyonce track playing when we were going to go on stage. So just before we went up, just as a warmer, to make him smile a little bit, I asked him a question that I knew the answer to. And I asked him, of all the billions, literally billions in assets that you own, of all the incredible NFL stars, NBA stars, real estate moguls, and artists that you manage, what is your most valuable asset? And I knew the answer was Beyonce. Except that's not what he said. He just looked at me real calm and he said, Dan, businesses come and go. Love comes and goes. Friends come and go. Opportunities come and go. The only thing that goes and never comes back is time. And he said, the most valuable asset I have is time. And I remember that night thinking, that is so true. I'm so focused on what is shiny, what is exciting, when actually the thing that I have, time, is the thing I don't appreciate. I give my time to anybody. I don't know, scroll for 10 minutes and it becomes 1 hour. It's my time. And I should value that more. So that day is when I got on Google Calendar. And to this day, I have not stopped using Google Calendar. Even my holidays are on Google Calendar. Even my weekends are on Google Calendar. So I would say that was one game-changing conversation. Another game-changing conversation was when I was 14 or so with my pastor in church. And it was a similar thing where in school, I was killing it, man. I was by far the smartest kid in school, by far the most involved kid. I was in the sports, I was in music, I was in theater, I was serving, I was doing as much as possible. And he saw that deep inside, what was driving me was I needed people's praise. I needed people to go, wow, Dan, you're amazing. And that is not a great way to live life. Because after they say good job, then what? Either you go down this very bad habit of constantly doing more and more and more for other people, or after the praise, you hate yourself because no one's there to see you when you're just chilling at home. So one of the really simple, small things that he said, he's like, I just see you and I care about you. Just being you. I was like, that's crazy. Because I haven't done anything. I haven't accomplished anything. I have not won some certificate. It's like, yeah, but I just like Dan. You're a great guy. And I was like, whoa. I need friendships and people like this, that even if I'm just sitting in pajamas in my couch and I'm not being DanRam, that they just go, yeah, we just love hanging out with you just for who you are. So that was one thing that also at that young age of 15, I was always thinking about, who am I when I'm not with other people? And do I love that person? Do I like being with me? So when no one's watching, when no one's around, that version of Dan, is that a nice Dan? Do I like that Dan? Do I want to be that Dan? So I think this was an important lesson to learn at that age. I'll tell you that I didn't figure out the answer at 15, 16, 17. I heard it then, but it took many more years of accomplishing things for other people, of winning awards and all of that, to then come to a point of, now what? Now what? And I kept arriving at now what? And I wanted to get to now and here. Not what next, now what next, but just like now and here. How do I just show up now? And it took me like well into, because then I started building businesses. Why? Because I want to impress people, do the impossible. I want to do all of this stuff for other people. And sometimes you need that out of your system. You only learn by going there. And after doing all of that stuff, that's why now we could talk about businesses built and all of that. But and this is not a surprise to me, that we've had a conversation about mindset, productivity, energy, branding, all of that. Because to me, that matters way more than building big businesses. Because then what? Great, you built a business, you sold it. And then what? When you go to sleep at night, do you love yourself? When you wake up in the morning, are you motivated for the day? Because if you haven't figured that out, that hurts me more than, oh, I'm struggling in my business. Okay, it's fine. You will find a way out. But if you don't love yourself, that's really sad, you know?
So you also met like very interesting people, other people like Obama or, yeah, people like that. So
Yes.
do you have a surreal story of maybe these situations or this time?
I get asked that question a lot, but honestly,
Sorry.
Here's the problem though. When you meet Richard Branson, who's like a hero of mine in the entrepreneurship world, or the founder of LinkedIn, or the CEO of Microsoft, or these Hollywood stars, Olympic gold medalists, Grammy-winning artists, the problem with that is we expect this when we go to meet them. And most of the time, they deliver this. So actually the answer is that rarely is it exciting. Rarely. Few people are at that level. Like I remember when I met Nico Rosberg, same level. Who I see online, same level backstage. But especially Hollywood actors, man, who I meet backstage is such a disappointment. It really is. It is such a disappointment. Because then you realize they're human. And the problem with Hollywood is they are made to be a character. And the disappointing part is we don't actually love the human. And they know that too. We want them to be in that character, to be that person. But what you meet is someone who is at best normal. But most often they're insecure, they're hurt, they're tired, they're old, right? I mean, makeup does wonders, but when you meet them backstage, they're actually just old. And so usually it's a disappointment. But actually the conversations that excite me are the unexpected ones. You know, it's the speaker that you don't know. And you go, oh, actually, you're so cool. Your story's amazing. It's the entrepreneur that gets 2 minutes on stage. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets 40 minutes on stage because he's flipping Arnold. And he's amazing. Arnold also is exactly the same person, backstage and on stage. But then there's that startup that's been given 2 minutes to pitch. And their spirit, their character excites me way more than Arnold. Because we know what to expect from Arnold. And the best he can do is deliver that. But I expect nothing from this founder. And when they show up here, oh, that is inspiring. So my most inspiring conversations are the unexpected ones. It has never been from a celebrity.
Do you think it's a good way for life to expect less, to maybe get surprised often?
100%. It's also a good way to travel the world. Because if you Google everything and get everyone's impressions and you go there, often you're disappointed. But if you just go with an open mind, and I'll receive whatever, you know, like if you go to India thinking, oh, it's going to be so hot and this and this, and it rains, which it does in the monsoon, you'll be disappointed. But there's a lot of cool things you can do in the rain too. So if you just don't have expectations, then it just makes it better. And I think it's the same for people as well. If you're just open to what people can give you, it's much nicer than having expectations. My biggest struggles with my best friends is when I had expectations for them. You know, we must talk this often. It must be this long. You must show up at these moments in my life. And for me to try to make them who I want them to be, rather than just going, okay, that's who you are. Like when you message, and when you're gone, you're gone. And I have to just accept that because that's you. And I need to get on your page rather than you getting on my page. And so when we expect less, and I don't mean like expecting nothing from people. What I mean rather is that we don't set them on a platform that they can only fall from, but rather we just accept them who they are. So it's not like you can give me 100 and expect 60. But if you can give me 100, I don't want to put you at level 300 because you can give me 100. So give me 100. I'm happy with that.
What are the 3 things that make me deliver on stage better?
Okay. I love this question. It's what I do all day long anyway.
Yeah.
So
It's your job, man.
it is my job. Number 1, art of the start. First impressions matter more than anything else that you will say. So how you dress, how you walk, how you enter the stage, what music you enter with. Are your eyes open or are they closed? Are you facing the audience? Are you facing this? All of that is super, super important. Same with the screen, right? Even if it's a Zoom call, like the podcast that we did initially online, same thing. Your first opening words make a difference. So does your background. So does the outfit that you wear. All of that makes a difference. So first impressions matter the most because in those first 40, 60 seconds, people decide, do I like you? Do I not like you? Am I going to listen? Am I not going to listen? Are you cocky, pretentious, overconfident? Are you, oh, really cool guy? I want to listen to you. So first impressions matter. Obsess about it. Practice it. Don't leave it to the stage. You must know your game plan when you enter the stage. That's the first thing. Second thing, most communication is nonverbal. In a podcast is different because the tool that they have is listening and maybe some of them are watching. But in general, most of the communication is nonverbal. As you spend the day together, you will feel more about me from what I don't say than what I say. And so even the stuff I'm claiming on the podcast, you will know by the way I live my life, not by what I say. And so on stage 2, most of your communication is nonverbal. Your eyes, your smile. So you can say, I'm very passionate about this startup. I said the words, but my voice didn't show that, my face didn't show that. But even if you say, let me tell you about my startup, I have not told you I'm passionate, but it's obvious from my body language, from my smile. So the second thing I would say about stage presence is focus on the stuff outside of your words. We spend way too much time, you guys too, on your podcast. You probably spend more time thinking about your questions than about how you sit. This is probably an accident, but this matters more because how you sit shows me informal, casual, friends, we're chilling. But I don't know if that was a choice that you made before you came here, right? Even the clothes that you wear. All of this signals way more than, or your hairstyles. It tells more than the questions that you ask. So that's the second thing I would say. And the third thing that I would say is have fun, because energy is contagious. You will absolutely forget everything that I say today. Maybe one or two things to remember. In 10 years, you will 100% forget where we met and what we talked about. But you probably will not forget how it made you feel. Because energy, ultimately the feelings, the energy carries more. So if someone comes in and say, oh, you met Dan 10 years ago, what was he like? You probably go, yeah, he did this, he was kind of that kind of guy. But you might not, and they say, what was question number 3 that you asked him? Don't remember. What was his answer? Don't remember. So I'd say even on stage, focus on that. What is the energy? What is the feeling that you want to communicate?
Great.
That was a long answer. I'm so sorry. This is my job, though. So
Yeah, was very good.
So what for preparing when you like 2 minutes in
Yeah.
front of a talk? So do you have like rituals or special
Tons.
things?
Tons. But that's my personality.
Yeah, but give
I'm
me a
an
little
Give
bit.
them- over-preparer.
Give them to us
Like we want to copy paste it and no,
Yeah.
in our
but,
life.
maybe it's inspiring for other
Yeah.
people.
I am an over-preparer by personality,
Okay.
but I am casual and informal by delivery. So all these questions you have asked, I practice my answer before I'm saying it. So this sentence, I know what I'm saying already. It's a tough thing to practice in your head and to train your head to do, but it's super important. So anyway, let me tell you about, yeah.
It is like unconscious, or it's like you're really thinking about what you say in the next.
It's very
line?
conscious.
Very
thinking-
conscious. It's really like, okay, these are the points. So how is it like you want to know what is the why, the goal, and it's like structured?
Yeah,
What is the
usually.
structure?
Like, even if we think about it, you asked about things on stage, and I knew my 3 things, and I was just waiting to say them. And even now about practice, I know my 4 practice techniques. This is just warm-up, but I know where I'm going with the answer.
Okay, cool.
So I would say structure your thoughts makes it a lot easier. But because of the podcast, I have to make it conversational and chill. I always will feel like an academic class. Because you could ask me a question, I'd be like, cool. Number 1, take out your phone. Number 2, we could do that way too. But let's go that way. Let's go that way as a test. Number 1, take out your phone and record your voice. Can you communicate your story through your voice alone without anything else? Listen to it about your pronunciation, your speed, your pausing, your emotions in your voice. Number 2, go to your bathroom, look in the mirror, watch your face. Say the same speech, but this time, especially watch your eyebrows, because most of the emotion comes from your eyebrows, not from your eyes, not from your nose, not from your mouth. It's your eyebrows. So for example, if I say, show me shock on your face. What does shock look like? What did you do? You raise your eyebrows. Show me sadness.
Give it to us.
Not the right mood. It's difficult right now.
Trying to get people in Germany to show emotions, also very difficult. On cue. Side note.
Yeah, that's true.
but let's come back to this. So second thing, go to the bathroom, look in the mirror, and I watch my face. Is my face aligning with what I'm saying? Number 3, I take a phone out and I record my movement. So then I set it up on a table and I move around the stage and I see, what are my hands doing? What is my upper body doing? What are my legs doing? And finally, number 4, I practice with people. Because if I'm trying to be funny, I need to see does it make a laugh or not. If I'm trying to be engaging, I have to see do they raise their hand or do they answer the question or not. So those are my 4 practice techniques for any speech that I'm giving.
Very good. Okay, so when I'm now looking at my own future and I have certain things I want to achieve, we are talking about much how we can achieve, but do you have some things that fundamentally every person should have in their vision that they should achieve? Or is there nothing like this? Is there for every person something different?
Something different for everybody, but for sure, the best that you can give to every day.
Okay.
And nothing less than that. But what that best is different for everybody. It could be being the best bigger brother. That could be your greatest achievement for that day. It could be the best podcast host. That could be achievement for a year. You can't achieve that for 50 years in a row, but you can do it for maybe 1 year or 6 months. It could be the best neighbor. It could be the best student. Whatever it is, but nothing less than your best.
So when you look right now back to your story, what are the things that you really learned where you say, this is important for life, that you figured out?
Ooh. Well, first of all, I learned that life is absolutely incredible. And I'm really grateful to be able to say that. I love that I get to wake up and be DanRam every single day. I am so grateful for that. And I love that people hire me to be DanRam. They don't hire me to be an accountant or to be a teacher. No hate to those. But life is amazing when you get to be you every day. So that's the first thing. Second, the journey to that is so difficult. It's easy to say, it is amazing to live, but near impossible to achieve. Most people don't want to go through that because it means losing things. It means taking risks and failing at things. It means embarrassment. It means disappointment. It means people leaving you, hurting you. That is hard. Most people don't want that. And therefore, they settle to fitting in, to being like other people, to compromising, to being average. So I would say, first, life is incredible and amazing. Not just as DanRam, just for anybody, life is amazing. Please fall in love with life. It happens once, and it happens super fast. So see life for all it can give you. Second, do the hard thing. And the hardest thing is to discover who you are. It's not business, it's not money, it's not those things. Those all happen very easily when you figure out who you are. So for me to break my next career milestone, easy if I know what I can do and what I cannot do. For me to get the next income bracket, easy if I know what I can do and what I cannot do. Both of those impossible if you don't know what you're capable of. So the second thing is do the hard thing. The hardest thing is get to know yourself. And the third thing, and I've said this many times, but honestly I think it's the most important thing that everyone seems to not care about and they think is just some voodoo science, is got to know your creator. Got to know why you're here, how you're here. Because if you see life as just, I was born and I will die and I've got 70 years, it is such a useless perspective. Insignificant. Doesn't matter. But if you understand life as to how is our life on this planet, how miraculous is it that I can see you and you can see me? Do you know how crazy our eyes are? Do you know the air that we're breathing, oxygen? It's not on any other planet. This is wild. It is really wild. Also, what are the chances that you with your story, me with my story, would meet in this room on this day? This is wild. None of this is normal. None of this is anything less than a miracle. And if you live in that wonder, in that excitement every day, and for me, my superpower is I know who made all that. This is crazy. Because my business ideas are from another level, because I'm connected to another level. I'm not looking at someone on Instagram and going, oh yeah, I could do that, that's cool. That's so basic. On the other hand, I go, okay, God who created Mars and who created the sun, give me something that is unique, easy for him to do. So the third most important thing I would say is you got to know your creator. If you know your creator, you know how you were created. If you know how you're created, life is fine.
We have a podcast tradition.
Yes.
Every guest leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who it is.
Ooh.
Your question is, how do you give employees in your organization space to create value?
Very poorly is the answer to that. So that is a very good question. But the honest answer is I do not give them enough space, because as a young company with huge ambitions, we are so caught in trying to achieve more than our resources. And so space for value is limited. We have 4 hours, we need to do 8 things. Most people, if you want to create space for 4 hours, you do 3 things, and you have an hour to do something else. Not in our company. So the answer is not very well. And yeah, maybe the next guest can tell me how I can make that better and create more space.